day of September, my favorite month, and we are going to go ahead and dive into our Government Affairs Committee. I'm going to save our speaker for last as to introduce themselves, but we're going to go popcorn style. So get ready. Hovering over the unmute button. I'm Diana Batista. I am with Lucille Packard Children's Hospital, Stanford, Government Relations, and jumping over to Sally.
Good morning, Sally Meadows, Los Altos City Council member. Happy to be here.
Thank you. We're going to keep with this theme there. Jonathan.
Good morning. Jonathan Weinberg, member of the City Council.
Scott.
Good morning, Scott Hunter, Executive Director of the Los Altos Village Association.
Dennis.
Dennis Young, member of the board of the Chamber of Commerce and first vice chair.
Roy.
Who's muted?
Sorry. Good morning, everyone. Roy Lave, Los Altos Yacht Club.
Kathy.
Kathy Kameen. I am the Director of Finance at Los Altos Community Foundation and also the Treasurer of the Chamber.
This is getting a little, everyone's ready with anxiety. I can see them. Abby.
Good morning, everybody. Ashante, hotelier.
Jeannie.
Ginny Lear, associate member, Los Altos.
And remember, I'm just going off of what I'm reading. So if it's not, so I'm just going to go with Laura O'Brien.
It's actually Scott O'Brien. I'm not sure why my wife's name's popping up, but Scott O'Brien, Cushman and Wakefield Commercial Real Estate, past chamber board member and past chamber chair.
All right, then this is a good way to press the rename button. So I'm going to go with Kim Cranston.
Good morning, Kim Cranston, President, Los Altos Property Owners Downtown, Steering Committee, Los Altos Community Voices, member of the Chamber and of LAVA.
All right, AMH's iPad.
Oh, Adele Hennig, I'm with Assistance League of Los Altos.
Harry.
Good morning, Harry Price, attorney member of both Chamber and LAVA and president of the Los Altos Rotary Club, to which you're all invited this Thursday.
Oh my goodness, I'm forgetting who I am. Marie. Muted, I'm sorry.
I don't know why sometimes I don't know. Anyway, Marie Young, a Los Altos community member.
Joe.
I'm going to get to that mute button there. Sorry about that. Yeah, Joe Maletti, an EVP with Avid Bank and the past chair of the Los Altos Chamber and current board member.
Ron.
Hi, Ron Lavitich. Good morning. I'm a chamber member.
Michelle. Muted.
Yep, still happening. It is Michelle Yu. Good morning. It's my first meeting that I'm dropping in on. I am a chamber member and I have a law office in the city.
Ken.
Hi, good morning. Ken Newman, American Legion Post 558.
Julie Rose.
A proud lifetime member of the Chamber of Commerce and calling in from Erie, Pennsylvania.
Ooh. Okay, did I get everybody? Did I miss anybody? Oh, Michael, I'm sorry.
Michael Murphy, local golfer. Nice to meet you.
Okay. Kim, we all know you, but.
Good morning, Kim Mosley, President of the Los Altos Chamber of Commerce. Great to see everyone this morning. Thank you.
Did everyone introduce themselves? Okay. City manager, where are you? There were looking at my Hollywood Squares box. There you are. There is a test at the end. I hope you can rename everybody. But please, thank you so much for being here with us this morning. You've got folks as far as Pennsylvania. So we are so excited to have you. Welcome to Los Altos. Thrilled to have you. We are going to go ahead and get you the next 50 minutes are yours. So
Okay.
there you go.
So I think I'll just have a brief intro and then questions, right? For the next 15 minutes. Okay. Whew, I thought you just wanted to speak for 15 minutes. I'm like, that's not, I'm not ready for that.
See,
No,
you're,
right.
you're not an elected official, right? Like
Program's an hour.
What's that?
Program's a whole hour.
Yeah, okay, well, this will be fun. I'm realizing as we go through introductions, how many people I know on here, and I'm like, who do I know from real life and who do I only know from Zoom? And it's about 50-50. But very happy to be here. I'm going on, I think, 6 weeks now. Starting to get really settled in. We're starting to get some things figured out. Met with Kim a few times, was really excited when the invite for this meeting came out. It allows us to just talk with people directly. So I'm happy to answer any questions that we have, and really just open it up as quickly as I can. So we can fire away, guys.
Great. I think generally maybe just to start, Gabe, I don't know, if our members that are present here have had a chance to really kind of understand your background, where you've come from, maybe why you were attracted to this position in Los Altos, and just
sure.
else. Yeah.
Okay. So prior to coming here, I was city manager in Sierra Madre, California. It's about 12 miles outside of downtown Los Angeles. And before that, I was a city manager in a town in Colorado. When I went to Sierra Madre, they had a lot of really big issues that they had to solve. And we spent about 5 years there working on getting everything from the budget straight to fixing the water system and a lot of stuff organizationally. We had felt that we had met those challenges, and when I looked ahead, I wanted to come to a community that also had a lot of challenges on the government side. And Los Altos offered that opportunity. We've got some organizational issues that we got to straighten out. We're going through RENA, housing element update, the low income a housing mandate, which is going to be very challenging. We've got a lot of work to do on the budget side. And the more I looked at the challenges, the more excited I became. And then the more I learned about the community, the more excited I became, because it's such a great place, really high quality of life, wonderful schools for my daughter. And everything kind of aligned where I could have a really challenging professional career and professional advancement, but also live in a community that's just really, really easy to be a part of.
Where'd you grow up?
I'm from Michigan originally. I've been moving west for a little while. I was in a small town in the middle of the Lower Peninsula, and then I spent a number of years in Detroit before I started in local government.
Did you go to school there too?
Is fun. Well, I can't follow the box quick enough, and I don't know why I'm trying to make
It's
eye
Ron,
contact.
so
I don't know why I'm trying to make eye contact anyway with the person that's asking the question, but that's what I'm doing. So
that's normal.
Yeah,
That's Ron Labitich, Gabe, over here on the
right.
left side, Ron Labitich.
I did my undergraduate at Central Michigan University. I have a master's degree from the University of Kansas and a second master's degree from Louisiana State. So I've been in schools all over the place, which has been fun in its own right, just getting to know different parts of the country and spending a little bit of time there.
Gabe, what originally attracted you to civil service or community service and city manager positions?
So in Michigan, I was in the private sector, and I'd been in the private sector about 10 years. I was living in Detroit, and at the time I was working with Chrysler, and I started to do volunteer pro bono work in Detroit, we had really well-defined neighborhood groups, neighborhood organizations, and they were trying to do just some simple things where you had to interface with the government, and trying to get what I needed out of the government in Detroit was impossible, and it was frustrating. So I decided at that point that I was getting a lot more fulfillment out of the neighborhood stuff as opposed to my career. And I thought I wanted to go into nonprofit management. So I went to get my MPA with the ultimate goal to come back and do, honestly, really small scale neighborhood planning, because that's really what interested me. And when I was at the University of Kansas, I got an internship in local government. And my boss at the time, he's just retired now, but he's a really great, well-respected county manager. And he let me do all sorts of stuff that an intern had just like no business being a part of, some high-level stuff. And it really got me interested in local government. So I stayed on the public service path, but focused on local government since then. And that's going from Kansas, I went to Tacoma, Washington, and then Gilbert, Arizona from there.
So Gabe, I've had the good fortune of working with some really great city managers throughout my career in government relations, but I've always wanted to know, like, as a city manager, you have to cover so many things. You have to be the boss of staff, right, of the city employees, but also pay attention to the council priorities. So, and if you happen to be having a work-life balance with the city, how do you prioritize your own priorities? Like, is it boss of the city first, of the city staff, or is it listening to them and their concerns and then kind of relaying that to city council, or is it city council kind of directing? And we know the relationships, but I would love to get your input from past experience and maybe what you hope to bring to this role.
So Diana is correct. This is a very confusing job. So you've got lots of stakeholders, you've got lots of bosses, and the first group that you're actually responsible to is the residents or the businesses, because you'll hear from them. You're trying to meet their needs. You're trying to make the government work for them in like a somewhat responsible, efficient, transparent way. One of the struggles we really have here in Los Altos, anyone who's been involved, is we have alignment difficulties right now, where I think it's been more pronounced during the pandemic, where we're regulating, right, because we have things we have to do with COVID. At the same time, we're being regulated by the county or the state. We have council members who have their priorities, their vision for the city. And then we have residents who are having to act, businesses specifically are having to act differently because of the pandemic. So when we talk about normal times and implementing a council vision and how you do that with staff and how that fits in with the community, the stakeholders here are more fragmented now, and there's more, I think, direct action by groups than you normally have. So leaving COVID aside, in normal times, your first response is to the community, their needs, their desires, and then you're trying to get alignment with the council vision, and you're trying to get staff to move in that direction. But that's not always right. It's not always easy. So there's not really an order after the residents. It's more of a balance. And sometimes you're putting your time and your energy into staff and their needs, and other times you're putting your time and energy into council.
Thank you.
Gabe, you said you've been here upwards of 6 weeks now. Have you identified those big challenges that you said attracted you? And do you have any plans yet how to address them?
So we're starting to figure out some of them. The budget's a real concern for me here. We had finance committee interviews last night, and it was fun listening to the finance commissioners who were reapplying, because they were all essentially saying the same thing, where our revenue stream is steady, it's solid. Our expenditures have been a little up and down. We've got real concerns with CalPERS, with our pension obligations, with our other post-employee benefits. We haven't funded them at a responsible level. And we know, for example, the next 5 years, our obligations are going to double. But we've kind of just been cruising along thinking like maybe this won't actually happen. So while our obligations are doubling, our funding level of our pensions has been going down. So we've identified those. And then what I've been telling council is, like, our balance sheet looks really good, but our assets look less good, right? We've got a police station that floods. We've got buildings that need repair, that have needed it for the past 20 years. We've got assets like the Halsey House, where a decision has to come. It's just, we've just put a fence around it. And these are all things we have to prioritize as a community before we move forward. But John Maginot, who we all know, and he's a superhero. When I ask him to describe the budget, he's been the acting finance director. He always says, well, Los Altos has been acting like it's getting ready for retirement for the past 20 years. It's just tucking quarters and nickels away in its mattress, but not paying for the obligations that it has, or paying for the maintenance of the building that it needs. So we have those issues. And then we've got a lot of issues with staffing right now. I was joking with a council member the other day during my interview. Council said, well, the first big thing you're going to do is hire a finance director. And I was like, oh, that's great. I'm excited. But the joke was, you didn't tell me that I actually had to hire an entire finance department. When I started, we have no finance director, no finance manager. We're missing 2 accountants. I mean, we've got like 2.5 people in finance trying to keep the books moving forward. And then how competitive we are in the marketplace with our staffing is really difficult, because we tend to pay substantially less than our peers. And the way we've classified our employees is also very odd for a government, where if you're a director, you're on the same pay scale. And what that means is, if you're the finance director, which I just had to hire, you're on the same pay scale as a community services director, which the market doesn't value the same. The market values a finance director to a greater extent, but because of the way we've classified it, it makes us less competitive in critical areas. But fortunately, we're very competitive in the other areas that the market may value less. So we've identified a lot of issues, but before we can kind of start working on the big things, all the capital projects, the EOC, Halsey House, before we can really start working on that, we have to get staffing figured out. We have to get our budget figured out. We have to just kind of take a breath and see where we're at.
How important is it going to be for you to develop the relationships with other cities? And have you met with other city managers so far?
So COVID has made that so hard. We have regular meetings with the Santa Clara city managers, and I've been in on that, but they're not really. It's different when you're together, or you're talking, or you're in a room. It's just kind of, you do a round table, and then we all talk about, well, what's going on with COVID, or what's going on with whatever the topic is at the time. So you're not really building relationships with them. You're kind of just meeting with them. And they're, you know, when we talk about Zoom meetings and virtual meetings, it was really early on, but the New York Times did this piece on how is remote work going? How are people handling it? And I always remember the quote was, they said, Zoom is where people talk, but they don't communicate. And that's kind of what it feels like with the other city managers. I know where they're at. I know their names. I know what their issues are, but we haven't been able to establish any type of connection outside of that. And that's different for me. Where I came from, obviously it was pre-COVID, but we had all built a very strong professional bond down there. So when COVID came out, it was very easy to support each other and to coordinate our response and to make sure we were all acting together. And it's been hard to replicate that up here.
Harry, I think you had a question?
Oh, he's on the phone.
Yes. Sorry, I'm on hold. I'm going to be interrupted. I've already apologized about that with the court call. But my question was, sometimes when a new city manager comes into a city that's undergone some controversy in the past, they might approach it, oh, I'm a little gun shy here, you know, I'm just served at the pleasure of the city council members, you know, whatever you want type of thing, as opposed to, gee, I have some great ideas. I'd like to, you know, push them forward. So my question to you, Gabe, is what are your good, fresh ideas in our community?
So we've already made a lot of changes here. So I'm not gun shy, and I understand there's been controversy here, but it's kind of a way of operation in Los Altos too, right? I mean, it's never this one controversial thing happened and then no controversy existed after. It's you go back, there's always been this kind of I won't say controversy, but difficulties at City Hall. And we can leave it there. We're hoping to smooth some of that out. You're going to see us bring forward a pretty strong recommendation on how to fund CalPERS. You're going to see us bring forward a pretty strong recommendation on what we need to do with some of our facilities. We've already reorganized a lot of the government kind of very quietly. But when we got here, what we noticed was it wasn't just the management level, but that mid-management level too had really been hollowed out. So we started from a position of being understaffed, but we had a number of vacancies. So we kind of weren't able to function as a whole government before, but now we're doing it at 80%. So we've started to take a lot of positions and look at where maybe we're over-resourced and how can we move them to areas of need in the city. So we've added positions in engineering and some in planning and some in community services. And that came out of staffing in the city manager's office, for example. So I said, look, I can't live large if the other parts of the organization are just struggling to get by. So you're going to see a lot of items come forward that I'm not kind of waiting to say like I'm new. This is, you know, or this is how we've done it. We're bringing things forward to try and make change quickly because we think that's what's needed in the organization and quite frankly in the city. So I think the working with council on some of this stuff, working with our commissions and our committees on some of this stuff, some of it's very apparent. And it should be an easy decision, like CalPERS should be an easy decision. We need to fund our obligations to a substantially greater extent than we have been. Some of them are going to be more difficult decisions, right? Or more political, like Halsey House. But where we're trying to get the council to go, and I think the council wants to go there, is we got to start making decisions on this stuff. We had one item at my first meeting, and we always have the history of it. And it had been in front of council 7 times. And we're like, at like 8 is 8, the magic number is 10, is it 12? Like how many times do we need to bring this item forward before it's time to make a decision? And council's ready for that. I think they're in a position where they want to be a council that starts deciding some of this stuff as opposed to talking about it. So so you'll start seeing a lot of stuff like that come forward.
Hey, Gabe, it's Roy Labe.
Hey, Roy.
Couple of questions. Is a bond issue when you're thinking about, say, some of the building work?
So residents here are taxed a great deal, and it's not always Los Altos that does the taxing, but we pay a lot in tax. So I think we're going to get the facility study back, and what it's going to say is what we all know it's going to say is we've deferred maintenance, where we run our assets to failure as opposed to maintaining or renewing them, and we're going to have to prioritize how to fix them. And depending on what that priority is like, will determine if there's going to be a bond issuance, which would go with a parcel or property tax. My guess is we don't need to do that, but it depends how large we're trying to go on the fix. We've got a list of capital projects that have been approved that we either can't afford to do all at the same time, or are probably not the highest use of the dollar that we have. So I also think before we get to bond issue, you have to talk about what your priorities are, where you want to go, and how much funding you actually have. So one of the things we talk about is with council, I'll always say, listen, we can do anything you want, anything at all. We just can't do everything you want. And one of the great traditions in Los Altos is to say, yes, of course, we'll do that. We'll put it on the list, and the list will go from 17 to 18, of which we're only going to get 5 things done. So what we're saying is we have to do the things we say we're going to do. And if we prioritize them, we can do 5 things well instead of 18 things really poorly. So a bond issuance is possible. I'm hoping to avoid it, but it really depends on how council prioritizes repairing and replacing the assets that need it.
So the second question, in terms of, I don't think of it as meeting the arena numbers. I think of it being the housing we ought to provide anyway, whether there are number of requirements or not. But it just seems to me that we're going to have to be much more proactive with developers if we're going to meet the demands for housing.
Yeah, so RENA is going to be difficult. I think one of the things we're trying to prepare council for is, after we've gone through this and we've thrown out every good idea we have and we've done everything possible, we're going to put the numbers together and we're going to be at about 60% of what we need to be per the state mandate. So it's being proactive with developers, certainly, but it's also looking at how our current zoning, what it allows for, what it can allow for. It's going to look at religious zoning overlay. It's going to look at ADUs, the accessory dwelling units. We don't have a lot of lots to develop like some cities. They'll get their RENA numbers. They'll be like, this is fine. We'll build in the southern half of the city. We don't have that here. So we have to meet our numbers by infill or redevelopment. And the mandate is serious, and it's going to take a while to go through. But I think being proactive with development is one piece of several things that we're going to have to do. Some of them are going to be real easy decisions, and some of them are going to be more difficult. But RENA and the housing element, we need a lot of guidance and input from the community, because it's you only get one chance to do it. There's certain things that you can do and you make a mistake and it's fine. We'll go back, we'll redo it. RENA sets you in motion. And once you get in the housing element update, you get in the RENA cycle. If you've made a mistake, it compounds the further down the road you get.
In terms of citizen input, you think that a housing task force of citizens is in the cards?
I would leave that to council. Council's created a subcommittee to do outreach, which I think they've got a good plan that they've put together for the outreach. I don't know if housing commission or something like that. I don't know how it would work. RENA is a very technical law where you have to have a deep knowledge and understanding of the mandate. And it would be very difficult to get that knowledge transferred to a commission. It would be easier, I think, and probably have a better outcome to meet with the various stakeholders and kind of be directional. What is it you want to see? What is it you would like to see? What are your thoughts on how we count ADUs, for example? And if we're framing the questions in the conversation in a way that's easier to understand, I think we'd get more people involved than trying to train 5 or 7 people really deeply on this topic and then defer to their judgment on answers and suggestions.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Gabe, are we, where's the city, or let me rephrase that. Is the city calendar as far as like the community center and other openings on track? Well, City Hall?
Yeah, so we'll return to in-person work next Tuesday, September 7th. It'll be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday initially, and then we'll reevaluate in 30 days to determine if we're gonna open more or longer hours. We're having some struggles here with City Hall small for anyone who's been here, and we've got 3 or 4 people in about 60% of our offices. So how we juggle those schedules, how we make sure that people are safe while they're returning to in-person work is going to be challenging, but we are on schedule. Community Center opens October, looking at the calendar, 2nd or 3rd. We'll have the ribbon cutting and the tours, and all of our facilities outside of the community center. So Grant Park, for example, all those are also reopening on Tuesday with some limited hours that we hope to expand in after our 30-day review.
Thank you.
Any other
Hey,
questions? Oh, yes.
Yeah, hi, Ken Newman from the American Legion. Hey, Gabe, back in it's either February or March of 2020, right when the shutdown came, the city council voted to fund the historical designation of the Legion Post. And it's been obviously a year and a half now. I understand a lot of it's all been COVID and tough on everything, but I just want to make sure that's on your radar. We need to raise somewhere in the neighborhood of 400,000 to put a new roof on the building, and that historical designation is going to really help us apply for grant money from different historical organizations. Yeah, I just want to just get that on your radar and make sure that's in the works.
It's on my radar now, so I'll have to follow up with you on it.
Perfect. Thanks a lot.
Yep.
Abby.
Gabe, question. Does Los Altos have in their budget outreach, advertising, anything that would bring people to this community, that would help all the businesses, help real estate? I mean, I see so many things out there from every other city but us. I'd been told there was a budget for it, but that it never got used. Can you give us a little enlightenment on that?
So one of the things we did after I started here is we took economic development and we moved it into the city manager's office so we can work directly with Anthony, who I'm sure you guys all know and love. I'm not sure if he's on the call or not. He's fantastic. He was in the planning department, which makes sense from a standpoint if you're talking about designing parklets or something like that. But economic development is not really a planning function, right? So we're going to give him some funding. We're going to have him talk about doing some direct contracts for marketing and advertisement, working with the chamber on how we want to brand and market our downtown. So we've got a lot of things coming up. Historically, I'm not sure what the budget was or how it was used, so I can't answer that. But this year and moving forward, we do have funds to put towards that. He's been spending almost all of his time trying to figure out parklets. We thought that was the first kind of most important thing we could do for downtown. But after that, I think you'll see a more traditional economic development role out of us.
Gabe, thanks for that answer. I just want to comment that most of us were delighted to see Anthony moved out from under the city manager, because it was so easy to ask him to do everything else but his job. So I think, his move to planning has really allowed him to complete a project, and that responsibility has been fantastic. And as you point out, yeah, he's much adored by the business community.
He is. Anthony's only going to be asked to do economic development. That the issue that you identified is one we have all over the city, right? If you are a good, responsive employee, then we're going to ask you to do your job, something maybe a couple degrees outside of your job, an entirely different job. Maybe we'll change your title if you could just start working on these other projects, which is it's just not an effective way. It waters down your ability to do the thing that you're supposed to do. So I'm never going to ask Anthony to do anything outside of economic development.
Anthony is on the call, I believe. And are your ears burning, Anthony?
Well, I appreciate all the kind words from everyone. I apologize, my video is not on. I was dropping my son off at his first day of daycare. So this morning's been a whirlwind, but I'm very excited to work with Gabe and Abby. I do think we have some budget for marketing and advertising, specifically this year and then the following year. So we have that earmarked.
Thanks.
I could chime in here as well. Really appreciate, our partnership with Anthony as well. And then additionally, Jonathan Weinberg, Sally, are you still on the call, Sally? Yeah, Sally Meadows, and Mayor Flagger, I think is on the call as well. I appreciate, the fact that our elected officials do come to these meetings as well. Their interest in our business community, in getting that direct feedback from our residents is so important, and really appreciate their dedication to getting that information firsthand as well. So we have a great group.
Sally. Yes.
Yes, thank you. And I just want to say that although there are 3 members of council on this call, we're not here to intimidate Gabe into silence. We are here because, exactly as Kim expressed, we're interested, we care about our business community. And I did want to bring up a question. It may be for Gabe, it may be for Kim, or everybody on this call. I've heard a lot of concern, and sorry, this is a little bit tangential, but a lot of concern about the serial ADA suits. And I wonder what the chamber, and probably you've covered this in depth and I'm just not aware of it, but what can we do to help, and how can we, it's a terrible situation for our small businesses.
It is. I can address at least, where we are at as the chamber, and, we've talked with Lava, and we're a part of the Chamber Coalition, a group of 16 chambers here in Santa Clara County. We do talk regularly and partner together. As Gabe had mentioned, the city managers were very close, in the area that he came from. It's the same way here in Santa Clara County, especially in working with our Board of Supervisors this last year and making sure that they understand our concerns on the business side. Yeah, it's a horrible situation, to be honest, right? It's poor timing as well. We have businesses that are on this kind of fragile area of just restarting now and hoping to be able to cover expenses and make up for the lost time of the last year and a half. So it's especially difficult timing. I think, we have a list of resources that have managed these types of lawsuits in the past. Harry was wonderful in helping to refer us to some representation that has even specifically dealt with the lawsuits from Scott Johnson, who is one of the primary plaintiffs of these. So we refer people to those individuals. I think there is the part of this, though, that we need to address as a community, and we need to respond and make sure that we are in compliance with all ADA regulations. We need to make sure that we have, the proper tables and the parklets and access for individuals so that our businesses can be certified in advance and hopefully, avoid some of this type of litigation. You can always still sue for any reason, and whether or not you are in compliance or not, you still may be sued. And we see quite a bit of that as well. So the option of the business owner then is, do you settle for a smaller cost, or do you fight it and incur not only your legal bills, but you also will end up paying, the plaintiff's legal bills. So these are very difficult, situations to wade through. I know that in specific to the situation with this primary litigant, other communities have had issues. We have spoken with Anna Eshu's office as well, so that we can look at this on a more national and then also state level. I know there's been discussions and problems with these cases in Sacramento, where they're not necessarily filed with the best intention. They're filed more as a source of revenue. So it's complex, Sally. We're trying to work through it and work the different angles on it. And I guess that's where we're at this point in time. I don't know if you have any comments, other members, or Gabe as well. Looks like quite a few.
I saw Kim's hand first and then Dennis.
Hi, yeah. I was on a call yesterday with some businesses talking about this, and I'm a recovering lawyer. I never practiced in the ADA area, but I did experience clerking for a federal trial court judge where a lot of these cases are brought initially. And I agree with everything Kim said. I'm curious about learning if there are any models out there of how other cities have dealt with this at different levels. Gabe, I'd be real interested in hearing if you can learn from other city managers. Have other cities done anything? Have their lawyers been able to do anything and I'm also very interested in if other business communities have been able to organize in any way to effectively deal with this. Because as it is right now, it is everybody's sort of on their own. And as I understand that it's cheaper to settle as quickly as possible than prolong it and run costs up. But at the same time, it would be very interesting to see if anybody's creating models for doing it differently. I'm not aware of any, but I'm very interested in seeing if there are anything, because otherwise we're just going to be stuck with these, sort of hit and run litigants that sweep through different communities, bring suits against a lot of people that some might say are frivolous, but there's not a lot you can do about it. So I'd really appreciate anything you could do. Maybe Kim, you could do to reach out and just find out what have any other communities come up with any models for organizing for a collective action, or are we just kind of stuck to do it on our own?
So the ADA, the federal laws, it's almost impossible to comply with it 100%. There's not a building in town that someone with bad intentions could not go into and sue over. And the appetite of the federal government to change it, or the state legislatures to change it, is very small. In the city I came from prior to Sierra Madre, we were sued by the Justice Department for non-compliance with ADA. And we ended up in a consent decree. And it started with the same types of suits that we're seeing here. Someone would go into a store, they'd find a piece of the carpet in the corner wasn't stapled down. That makes you ADA non-compliant. We'll sue you in federal court. You end up settling for $10,000 because it's cheaper, and you hope another attorney with the same bad intentions doesn't come in. I've followed ADA very closely since then. I've not seen any city with any program that's been even somewhat effective, because it's individual bad actors that are able to use a well-intentioned law in a way to create revenue. So they have incentive to exploit the loopholes. I'm happy to reach out to the city managers up here and see, because I'm certain if it's happening here, it's probably happening in Mountain View. It's probably happening elsewhere too, to see how they're handling it. But I'm leading in with that because I don't want people to have a lot of hope that there's a model out there that we can put in place here. Because again, it's individual actors acting against individual businesses who have to comply with the law that's impossible to comply with.
Thanks. Yeah, I generally agree with that assessment. And I'm, again, just very open to any creative solutions anybody may have come up with, because I'm not seeing any. And that we're just going to be stuck with this, unfortunately, like we're stuck with a pandemic going forward. And the combination of the two is devastating. Thanks, though.
Dennis, did you want to finish? Did you want to? No, okay. Kim, this got me thinking, mainly because as you know, I'm involved with the other chamber close by and with Mountain Views. And so I don't know if it's worthwhile, but maybe like a joint, because we all have the same, a lot of the business have the same kind of questions. Maybe we can do like a joint kind of special committee meeting where we have speakers speaking on this topic and maybe find some solutions or just what are we working on. And so I know Mountain View did one years ago. Back when we
had one last month, actually, Diana, that was in conjunction with the Mountain View Chamber, and invited other chamber members to attend as well. There were a few attorneys present that really just talked about what we all did here, and offer some support. It's opportunity for people to at least vent their frustration, find out what the legal advice is. It's unfortunately, I think it is just kind of realizing that, darn it, these things, they happen, and they happen at, the worst times, and people really are, there's some people out there with bad intentions looking for any opportunity to make some money. And yet, that being said, making sure that you can do as much to be in compliance as possible so that you are not, as vulnerable as you might be otherwise.
Yeah.
But happy to co-host other sessions, and in the future, would be happy to do that. Definitely.
We are down to the last 9 minutes, and I want to make sure I have any other questions or comments for Gabe. Gabe, I hope you realize that you have a great resource here with Kim, with all of us from different sectors, different businesses. So feel free to come on and talk to us whenever you feel like it. Any final words or comments from you?
Oh, just thanks for inviting me here today. I love the opportunity to just have a dialogue, and we love the chamber. I've worked with Kim. We're excited to keep working. So anytime I can help, or anytime I can even attend just to listen, I'm happy to.
You're welcome anytime, Gabe. If there are, if you just like feedback from our organization, a few moments in a meeting, or just sit in and listen, we would love to have you. I'd be curious to know too, we hadn't really talked about this, but the business community needs your support. I'm just wondering how we can support you in your transition, or if there's anything in particular that we can do as community leaders, business owners, whatnot, to better support you.
Right now, you've been great. You in particular, Kim, have been very, very helpful to me, getting me to know the lay of the land. We spent time on the parklets and getting to know the needs of the businesses. So I think just continuing what we're doing is very helpful to me.
Great. All right. Thank you so much, Gabe. We look forward to working with you. Kim, any final announcements from the chamber?
Our announcements would just be that, we just finished our golf tournament on Monday. That was a great day on the course. Looking forward to that again next year. So appreciate the support of all of our businesses and community members in that. Next things ahead in our fundraising efforts, we have the Los Altos magazine that we published. I can't believe now it's almost been 2 years, right? So the last one came out in March of 2019. So we are planning to put together a new issue that would be released at just after the first of the year. So if you would like to participate in that, advertise, be a part of an article, etc., please reach out to our office. We'll be pulling that together. Chamber raffle coming up as well, fundraiser for the chamber so that we can just continue to provide the services that our small businesses have really needed during this time. Next month for government affairs meeting, the first Wednesday of every month from 9 to 10, Mayor Flagger will be joining us next month. So come back for that session. And then we have for a bit now been talking with VTA about getting them on our calendar. And then we've just reshuffled things a bit, but looking for VTA to come in November. And then possibly Mission Trail Waste Systems to join us in December. So that's the landscape going forward. Any speakers that you would like to recommend or invite to have a conversation with us, please reach out to me and let me know, and we'll put them on the calendar.
Great. Okay. Anybody else has quick for the good of the order? And then I will adjourn this meeting in honor of my birthday next week. So enjoy, have a great rest of the day. Thank you all.
Happy birthday, Diana. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Diana. Thanks so much for coming, everyone. Great to see you. Thank you.
Thank you all.